Welcome to Porfection, where you get to decide whether a Porsche is your perfect car. So welcome to Porfection. I'm Josh, and this is a 2013 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S. Or as Porsche people say, a 991.1, which came after the 997.1 and 2. Go figure. So this generation, which ran from 2013 to 2016, although it started with 2012 in a few models, was the last of the naturally aspirated flat six engines in the Porsche 911, other than the GT3. This 3.8 liter makes 400 horsepower. This one's equipped with the PDK, and it is in racing yellow. What I really notice is you don't have that feeling of weight in the back that you've had with every other 911 I drove that predates this generation. Now the 4S helps with that. Adds a little bit of weight up front, 100 pounds or so, but because that engine has moved upward toward the front in the chassis, you just don't really notice the weight. It drives more, dare I say, like a more mid-engine car. I mean, it's there, don't get me wrong, but it's not the first thing you feel. And with the wider front track, you just get a lot more front end grip. The understeer that you had in previous generations just is really negated in this model. So I like that a lot. Moving around, you see the optional lighting. So again, the PASM Sport suspension lowers the car roughly 10 millimeters. You see it does sit low and has a pretty dramatic front overhang, which necessitates a bit of care. I won't even say on a steep driveway, on almost any driveway. As with all 911s, you have a bit of storage up front. The gas cap on the passenger side front fender. And this is something I like about Porsches. They always think of the little things. No flopping gas cap. And this is the second one I've owned, and you're always finding little touches where they did a bit extra. As especially beginning with this generation, there is nothing to see in the trunk area, but you can access what you need to. Moving on into the interior, as you see, this is the base interior, so you don't have any deviated stitching, leather and additional surfaces. It's not hard plastic, but in this price car, sometimes you wish this was maybe a little bit more pleasing to the eye, but it is easy to clean. Unlike the 997, where you had a bit of encroachment here on your knee, in the newer generations from 991 up through the present 992, you have plenty of space. Everything is laid out here, starting like they did with the Panameras. I like buttons. I don't like menus. This still keeps with all of the buttons. So you have your sport mode, your sport suspension, the sport exhaust, all right there. This does have the navigation and the Bose stereo system, which is fine. It was about, I believe, a $2,400 option the year that this was built. To go above that, of course, it was over $5,000. So you'll see that most from this era have the Bose upgrade. It makes it where it's a decent stereo. I don't know truly why a stereo of this quality wouldn't be included in the car, but Porsche does like their pricey options. Garage entry. And then of course you do have a back seat. Here in Wisconsin they require a front license plate, so that's where mine is. That's the proper place for it. A little bit of luggage capacity in the very back. And room for the kiddo on a short trip. You do have your memory seats, your power mirrors, your GPS.
Navigation is not active.
Talks to you if you push the button wrong. Here's your ventilated seats, heated and cooled. Dual mode temperature controls. And a bit of storage. And those are a neat touch for small items to keep them from bouncing out of the seat. And then of course, as Porsches have had for quite a while, always a topic of debate, their cup holders. Okay, then let's go for a ride. I like to engage the sport exhaust button right away. Turn down the sound. So in the Midwest, nothing will end your joy quicker than a car with a brutal ride, because the roads up here are not kind. And even though this car sits on the sport suspension, a little lower, a little more taut than the regular setup, it's not bad. You do feel it, but as the car people say, the damping, the rebound in the suspension and the harshness, the car soaks up those types of road imperfections. Handling, as you all know, these 991 series cars, the weight was adjusted a bit toward the front. It's not quite as rear biased. The all-wheel drive assisting that further. Now in this model, of course, one of the big knocks on the 991.1 is steering feel, because it did transition from the hydraulic to the electric. Now everybody, of course, commends the steering feel of the electric steering in the 911s, but it doesn't, to me, feel obviously quite as good as a 997 steering wheel. It doesn't just throb and hum as you go down the road, feeling every pebble, but it's good. As you know, another thing that I really enjoy in driving a vehicle is being able to see out of it. There's a lot of cars out there that are far more exotic looking than this one, but you really enjoy the drive that much more. You enjoy a drive to see how a car feels, to take that 25-mile-an-hour curve at 50, just sliding out to the middle of the lane, full power, exiting that turn, seeing the surroundings and just enjoying being on the road. Yes, harsh riding, exotic with not much in the way of sight lines. It's a lot of attention at a Cars and Coffee, but is it really where you want to spend your time? So this has the 3.8 liter 400 horsepower engine. It's not scary fast. it's enough to entertain. It sounds great. It's not as fast as the newer turbocharged Carreras, but you do get that sound. You get that surge in power at the upper range on the tachometer. And then finally, are you comfortable in the car that you drive? How are the seats? Those of us that are getting a little older, I don't want anything to hurt when I get out. As far as the comfort level in the car, I can't complain. And frankly, if you're one of those people that want to know if somewhere in the menu, 5 layers deep, you have an option to vibrate your right cheek while your left cheek is receiving cool air, we're probably not looking for the same kind of car. Most of those types of things I never figure out before I move on to another vehicle. But this one might be one that I keep. That's 7,000, 7,500, shifts, 90. So enough to put a smile on your face. And now the top 5 things that I like about the Porsche 911 and the top 5 things that I dislike. First off, the overall look of the car. It's an attractive car. It doesn't have a styling feature that I believe will become dated over time. I'm partial to hardtop 911s rather than the Cabriolet, so I did get the hardtop this time. And finally, the color. In a sea of silver Porsches, which I granted is a historical color for them, but if you get a yellow one, it stands out. Some people kind of knock 911s as being very common. That's why they get a Ferrari or a Lambo of some type. But in racing yellow, the car stands out even in a crowd. Second, the view out of the car, I alluded to this on the drive video. You're not cocooned in the car. You can see out of it. In fact, when the spoiler's up, you can basically see all 4 corners of the car. That makes the ride very enjoyable. Third, ride quality. Despite the PASM Sport suspension, you do notice the stiffness, but it never becomes uncomfortable. It doesn't take away from the experience. And besides, the lowered stance I find very attractive. Back seat and space. You have room in the car. The 991 generation grew a bit, and you do notice that. But the car is very usable. You have some rear seats. You have some storage areas in the car. You're able to take a weekend trip or pick up a few things and not have to worry about holding groceries in the passenger's lap. And fifth, the cost of ownership. While not cheap, I don't believe I'm going to have to worry about depreciation on the car. And at the same time, even some of the common maintenance items I'd feel comfortable doing myself. Even gas mileage. Took a trip and I averaged 29 miles to the gallon. And then finally, the CPO coverage from Porsche. They cover bumper to bumper anything that was, any wear item that was more than 50% worn is replaced. So I feel very comfortable knowing that for a couple of years, I don't have to worry about putting any further dollars into the car. So 5 things that I dislike about the car. One, the initial purchase price. For a 2013 model that's not a limited edition type vehicle, to spend what most people are spending close to $100,000. Actually, it seems like yellow sells at a discount, and that's why I picked up mine going into winter. But I think that's a bit steep. A lot of used exotics don't cost much more than that. I'd like another 50 horsepower. The car is fun, but I believe it could benefit from a little bit more power, so I do wish it was a more powerful model. Third, the interior finishes on the doors and the dash are a bit underwhelming. I understand why so many upgrade the interior, but I was slightly disappointed in that. My fourth dislike is the stereo. I feel for a $2,400 upgrade, I should be slightly wowed by the sound quality, and I'm not. And finally, fifth, the blanks around the console. It's a constant reminder that maybe you don't have as many options as what's available on the car, and instead of having a smooth panel, you have the blanks for the buttons that you're not going to get. And now for the segment that I call the random tidbits of unnecessary information, basically information that I found interesting and I hope you do too. The 4S was just made from 2013 to 2016, and the 991.1 followed the 997.2, but came before the 991.2 and the subsequent 992. Okay, nobody finds all that interesting. There were 6,305 Porsche 911s brought to the United States in 2013. Of those, 1,126 were 4S coupes. Racing yellow replaced speed yellow in 2012, and often today seems to sell at a discount. Also, to show you the difference of the driving experience between a 991.1 with the naturally aspirated 3.8 liter flat six and the 2017 991.2 with the 3 liter turbocharged flat six, I'd like to share with you the following power figures. The 991.1 makes 400 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque. The former at 7,400 RPM, and the torque comes in at 5,600. Now this compares to the 2017 model, which has 420 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 370 foot-pounds of torque at only 1,700 RPM. That 4,000 RPM difference dramatically changes the driving experience. The 991 feels bigger than its predecessor, and it is. It's 2.2 inches longer, the front track is 2 inches wider, the wheelbase is 4 inches longer, but it does manage to weigh about the same. That also changes the driving experience, as overall it's a better balanced car, does not understeer to the degree that the 997 did. Also, the 991.1 was the first generation to go to electric steering rather than hydraulic. Many knocked the electric steering, and many of the journalists who first tested the early 2012s were very critical of the steering feel. But by 2013 and 2014, it seems like when you read those articles, not many complain. I've had no faults. Yes, my 997.2 did have a little bit better steering feel, but for normal driving, I'd even prefer the 991.1. Hey, so guys, I'll be doing some future updates here soon. I have another Porsche parked right there that I'll be talking to you about. So if you enjoyed this video, or frankly, even if you don't, do me a favor. Please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of my infrequent updates. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.